We're good now. Padres fans, we got to talk about what our superstar players are saying about Albert Pujols, the managerial, maybe favorite, maybe darling. Let's unpack it all and get to what Fernando Tatis had to say about it on this episode of Padres Digest. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into the show that is excited as heck about how Game 1 of the World Series went. I love it. I'm down to hate watch Shohei and the Dodgers getting beat. Although, side tangent, just with the Chauncey Billups and the gambling thing, do we think that Shohei maybe took? Let's start the rumor that Shohei took a dive there and get that. Let's get that out. Let's get him kicked out of the league because he's too dang good. I kid. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Albert Pujols. Let's talk about what's going on with the Padres managerial search. With all of this, please leave a comment and engage because you guys see baseball way different than I do from all sorts of perspectives, and I want to really make sure we can be there for each other in terms of helping flesh out who should be our manager. Not that any of this actually matters, but it's fun to talk about. Saw this headline, which, yes, Pujols there. Let's get to the actual headline, though. Apologies for hitting the wrong button. I'm flustered. I did 7 minutes of this video realizing that I did not have everything correct on the monitor behind me. It was not Angry Mike Shildt. It was the Sixth Sense playing, and I could not be more upset with myself. So now I'm flustered. But let's roll with it. Let's do it. Fernando Tatis Jr. offers two-word take on Albert Pujols' managerial rumors. I wanted this to be a profane, a bleep, yeah. But instead, the quote is this. When he was asked if he would be excited and open to Albert Pujols being the next manager and if he would like playing for Albert Pujols. Drum roll, please. Of course. All right, let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Making a lot out of a little, maybe not. I don't know. But of course, what does of course strike you as? Drop a comment on that. For me, of course, on the very basic factual side of just presenting the facts first and then the rant later. This seems like a tepid positive endorsement of the links of which he's probably going to say, of course, to anybody. But it's good on its own singular face value not to have something vague and like, sure, or like there, I guess even at a 2 words, there could be a threshold where I'd be like, that's not that great of an endorsement. Of course, is good. End of the fact, start about the rant. Of course, I think also, though, like there is a language barrier in that Fernando Tatis does not speak fluently, colloquial, conversational. Like he's not going to speak in deep euphemisms and ponder the finer points of philosophical literature in English. He does it in Spanish. He's not, so I didn't want, it would be out of character for me to have Tatis out here going on and on and on and pontificating about like, I think Albert is great because all of this, that, and the other in English. Maybe if you wanted to do in Spanish or English or something, like maybe if you really wanted to do a whole, like, I'm going to support this guy, sure, he would have figured it out. But to me, of course, it's simple, it's straightforward. But with the language gap, also, it just got me thinking, do we need a guy who's, and not to say that Mike Shildt didn't necessarily know how to communicate with everybody, but also do we need a guy who's literally able to communicate with everybody in the clubhouse, even if it's like that Fernando and previous management could all get each other, maybe communicating something like that in native speaking Spanish and this and that and the other and cultural norms and differences and levels of, I know that this goes into a place that walks a very fine line of you're all going to be like uncomfortable talking like, to me, it's uncomfortable to talk about anything that butts up against race or language or culture or like that in 2025. And so I promise that this is coming from a entirely good place. I'm not saying there's any right or wrong or better or worse or that or the other. I'm just saying that sometimes when there are differences of like how to actually speak to somebody in a way that you're trying to get like the most out of them, it got my brain thinking that maybe this is also really more of a thing why I want Pujols. Okay, end of Pujols rant, I hope you receive that well, and I would love to hear what you guys think, because I get also on the flip side of what you're saying about when I'm reading the comments of you guys on both our stuff and just in general on Twitter. I get that there's a lot of people who are like, he should be a hitting coach. He doesn't have the managerial experience. He doesn't have the proven formula. Who is out there right now? Is Connie Mack or freaking Casey Stengel come back from the grave? Like, is there an all-time GOAT where you're like, dude's got a trillion? Like, what do we get? Joe Madden? Joe Madden was the Zen. Joe Madden could potentially come. So, great. Let's do. Joe Madden could end his career in San Diego the way that many a greats have come here, is to be old and outdated and soak up the sun and cash some check. I don't know if that guy had the zen that he had with a team 10 years ago. Does it apply to this clubhouse, to this game, to today's? Maybe it does. Maybe I don't see anybody who's like, oh my God, that's the perfect person. So Pujols to me just it works on so many levels where I'm like, why not give it a shot? And so I get more and more into Pujols every single day there. Let me hit you with another headline, though, that is a different managerial candidate that came up that I think also is in this same lane of like able to communicate. Also, though, is able to communicate as a Padre great, and that is hearing that Carlos Hernandez, the ex-catcher and broadcaster, ex-catcher, current broadcaster, for those of you that are not maybe that are listening more than you're looking at this, is interested in the Padres managerial job. And there's a whole article about it in The Athletic, and I'll get to a little snippet of it that kind of summarizes the TLDR of like what his baseball resume is. But for myself, as a person of a child of the night, born in 1990, in October of 90, the 98 World Series was a very special time in my formative years. So I like throwing out that disclaimer, am already biased to have seen, because I'd take the other guy in this photo. I would take Hoffman. You go down that list of Padres greats from either 84 or 98, and I would take Dave Winfield, and I would take Raleigh Fingers, or I would take Donnie Wall, or Chris Gomez, or Joyner, or Greg Vaughn, or I'd obviously take Kevin Brown. I joke some of these names. So back to the seriousness of Hernandez, but like there are certain eras where I am colored and biased towards just being like, I'd like that guy. But then also going beyond that, I think Hernandez has the connection to the city in a way of like he did it here, and then granted it was for a one World Series loss, swept by the 98. It's not like he sustained a 20-year, we went to 9 championship series and 4 World Series and all that. Like, okay, but he has actually been there, done that, tasted success in San Diego. And so if nothing else, maybe that's just like every article, every player, everything, I feel like we're drifting back towards hiring another guy who's in the same vein of the people that we have hired on and off for the last 10 years. And we're going to lose out on somebody that maybe could capture the spark. Here's the Hernandez text that I was saying I was going to get to. This one, big apologies to everybody on the phone side of the consumption here. I keep doing this to you with small text. Let me read this for you. Hernandez recently completed his 14th season as the Padres' primary color analyst on Spanish language TV and radio broadcasts after a decade-long playing career that included the Dodgers, the Padres, St. Louis Cardinals. The Venezuela native managed the Toros de Tijuana of the Mexican Summer League. They made it to the postseason in 2004. He worked the next 3 years as a catching coordinator for the Padres, served as Venezuelan winter ball manager of the Leones del Caracas from 2006 to 2008, and reunited with former Padres general manager, RAP Kevin Towers, as a catching coordinator for the Arizona Diamondbacks from 2010 to 2013. So, again, a candidate that I'm sure some of you are going to jump out there and be like, oh, yeah, no managerial experience. We need 100-win season. I need some. Show me his resume. But again, just another one where I'm like, man, there are now, I feel like, more good outside the box options than there are inside the box options. I don't know how serious. I would assume that Carlos Hernandez is lower down on the end of like real opportunities to do this. He's not the name brand that Pujols is. He's not the direct connection to it. But if you look up and down, also sometimes being able to see the entirety of an organization and see all of it holistically could be an actual asset for a manager or general manager. And Hernandez working as a winter ball and a Mexican league and a player development and a coordinator, maybe he could potentially just have a resume that is actually very understanding of he doesn't need to be the guy who's like, hey, move your backhand a little bit down and then over, and then that'll be what leads you to hitting all these home runs. Like, he can be the guy who's just like, I'm putting the pieces in the right place. I'm keeping the vibes right. I'm just the captain of all this, cruise of this cruise liner. I don't know. You guys seem to lean against my thoughts on all things baseball, and that's why I love you, because you keep me real. But just between Pujols getting the endorsement of the clubhouse main guys, whether they are right or wrong about any of this, I don't know. Only time will tell. But Fernando and Manny and everyone seems to be behind Pujols. But also Carlos Hernandez coming in. Like I said, I like the options. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Talk to you later.